Am I up? Somebody tell me I'm here, because I just got a noise from YouTube saying that live streaming is currently not available. So I'll wait for somebody to text something to tell me I'm actually online. Hi, Mike. There he is. We hear you. Okay, thank goodness. Yipe. There's a terrifying thing. You start your day off and you're getting ready to do your live stream and you plink and all of a sudden YouTube goes, live streaming isn't available right now. Please try again later. I'm like, I really can't try later. So anyway, so we're up and going. On the non-IT world, first of all, welcome. This is the Mike Meyers Ask Mike Anything live stream session. We do this every day, Monday through Friday, at 2 o'clock Central Daylight Time. The goal of this get-together is, because of the coronavirus, so many of us are isolated these days, that this is my way to kind of help out a little bit and to give folks an opportunity to ask questions about the stuff they're interested in. We concentrate on all the CompTIA certs, primarily IT fundamentals, A+, Net+, Security+, although we can go a little bit beyond that. Also, feel free to ask me tech questions. I've got a really good tech question today, but I'm not going to be able to answer it because I didn't get one thing set up I wanted. But anyway, the bottom line is that this is for you. Today is Friday, so that's giveaways. We're going to be giving away books today. Probably not sure which books yet, and so that ought to be a little bit fun. Some good competitions, and I guarantee it'll have something to do with ports. So it's Big Friday giveaway day, which is always exciting and fun. Also, keep in mind that just because you're nice enough to show up today, we offer to you 60% off of our bundle A+ and Net+ products. So that is the bundle of our practice questions and simulations all put together to allow you to get some practice in. I think the questions are amazing. I'm very proud of them, and very powerful tools to help you pass your CompTIA certifications, and they're 60% off. So just look down here and go to our link. It's a MM Live 427 code, and you get 60% off, which is ridiculously cheap. I think that's got to be, hate to say any numbers. I'm really good at computers, but I'm really terrible at business. So I would just give all this stuff away and then I wouldn't be around anymore. But so you'll have to check the pricing when you go onto the site. Let's take a look, see who's here today. Smaller, oh, it's growing though. Computers. All right, from the top, Harry Brizzo from Louisiana. I wonder where in Louisiana. I like Louisiana. I like to go fishing there. Jimmy is here. It's Friday. You am right. It is. Gino, TS. Mr. Ruby, hello from Baltimore. Man, it's been ages since I've been to Baltimore. I've pretty much taught everything from Boston to about Richmond, Virginia. Anywhere there along I-95. I've done a ton of stuff along there. Andrew Hutt saw a poem. Yes, it is Friday. This lockdown thing is going to be tough. Well, the nice part here, at least in Texas, is that we're opening things up a little bit, not too much. And I actually managed to get a reservation at a restaurant, like a sit down in the restaurant. I'm probably going to be served by a guy in an Intel bunny suit, but I'm excited that I'm going to actually get to go to a restaurant and like dine. You know, it'll be fun talking to people. If it's through a mask, I don't care. I'm talking to people. You'd be surprised how much you guys keep me like, you know, from going nutsy sometimes, just having an opportunity to talk with y'all. Yeah, but it is JS, it's tough times. I won't argue that at all. I'm Batman, Tolowit. Vimal, here, yes. Jao Sosa. Jao, I got your email, and I'm not gonna be able to fully address it right now, buddy. I'm very, very sorry. We'll get some of it though. Uzbekistani Denzel. Are you Uzbeki by any chance? That'd be cool. Good. Sanzit is here. We got a good crowd. Some new faces, always fun. Henry from Louisiana. When I was playing around the Windows 10 CLI for the A+, I found the desktop was under the OneDrive instead of the traditional desktop path. Your desktop was under OneDrive? That That's new. I've not run into that. We'll see if anybody else has some responses. Henry, I don't have the answer to everything, and unfortunately, unless I have the answer on the top of my head, I'm just not in a good position to do research for you. But we have other folks in here who are pretty good techs, and I'll bet you they throw some answers out there too. TS, I wish I knew Commandment 1 before yesterday. Yep, the Mike Meyers 10 Commandments, man, they're great stuff. Yeah, just on YouTube. Just type in Mike Meyers 10 Commandments. I did it about not quite 10 years ago. I still stand by everything it says. Yeah, Florida's opening up too. That's what I heard. JS, any other St. Louis people? JS, I was born in St. Louis, right off of River to Pear, if you know St. Louis at all. Patrick Velas, can you take me through DMZ? When to use it? What is it good for? Patrick, I was going to do today port forwarding, port triggering, and I was going to do DMZ, but it just didn't pan out time-wise. But I promise, guarantee, that Monday will be a very complete discussion. We did a really pretty good run-through on port numbers and protocols yesterday. I didn't get anybody asking, like, teach us Telnet or teach us SSH, which surprised me, but that's no big deal. Here, let me put this up while I'm thinking of it. So this is my contact information. If you have a question that's going to take some development, I'd really rather you send me an email. The reason is that I can really take the time. I can make some type of presentation so that others can enjoy your good questions. Those first two emails, one is my personal, the other one is, the top one is my work email, the bottom one is my personal. I get all of them. They come directly to me. It doesn't matter which one you use. If you're a gamer, I'm Senor Pepe. This is an office number. I'll take phone calls from y'all, but generally that number goes through one of my screeners, and I'm sorry, just on a public thing like this, even though I know so many of you guys, we have to be a little bit careful about that stuff. Also, when in doubt, DesWeds. I'm Des. If you want to know what my Zoom account is or anything like that, just use DesWeds. It'll get you into just about everything. So the important thing I'd like you to remember is that when you have a bigger question, and like Patrick, DMZ is, in my opinion, Audrey O'Shea is here. Yay, Audrey's here. I'm going to save DMZ and all that for Monday because I promise it'll be really cool. You're going to really like it. We're going to do a little bit more work on conceptualizing how networks work a little bit more today, because now that we just have some sense of feeling about ports, I need to develop this a little bit more. I need to make sure you guys understand NAT, and then we can start going into things like DMZ and all that kind of stuff. So it will be Monday. Stan Davidson got the usual great experience when someone runs auto runs for the first time, especially when their machine's running slow and they're like, oh, I run auto runs. It's like, holy smoke, I had no idea how much stuff was auto starting. Good for you, Stan, man. That is why we love auto runs. It is the tool for finding all those weird things. Okay. It was running everything but the Boston Marathon. Yep, I know that feeling. DLLVV, hello from Brazil. I don't know any Portuguese. Sorry, I should have some like hello, something like that. Can I explain SharePoint? Audrey, really? Okay. Justin Kinsey. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's take a moment right now, and let's go ahead and take a look at. I want to talk about really networking a little bit, because people get confused when we start using network diagrams. So let's just take a moment and take a quick peek at a network and some of the nomenclature we use when we're talking about networks. All right. So what I've got here in front of me is a fairly typical sketch of what we call a home router. And I'm sure you guys have all seen these before. So what I want to do, Here we go. Finally got a use for it. Sorry guys, give me a sec. Here it is. I put up the wrong presentation, sorry. Here we go, let's get the right one going. All right, so what you're looking at here is a kind of a sketch of a typical home router. I hate that word home router because there's really a lot going on in this little box. Oh, come on, not today, not in front of the kids. Here it goes. Okay. It was just taking a moment to look. So let's take a look at this. So first of all, you know, you're going to have some kind of round coaxial connection that's usually plugged into a cable modem or something like that. That's going to be your connection out to the internet itself. Then you're going to have some little ports. So you see these 4 little ports you can directly wire into the system. And that little box also almost always has wireless too. I don't like these boxes. I mean, I like to use the boxes. I think they're good. I think they're horrible as a way to learn about networking, because the big problem you think is that, oh, routers always include 3 or 4 ports on the back, and routers all include wireless. They don't at all. Routing is a function, and we have a box that does that function. It's called a router. But so let's take a look at this one more time, and let's see how it looks in the real world. Okay, so let's get rid of all this stuff for a minute, and we're going to see something that looks more like this. This is that exact same box, except I've got it broken out into functionality. Now, first of all, we're going to have the actual router part. These routers almost always have only 2 connections. There is what we generically know as the WAN connection out here, which connects us to the internet, and then we have what's generically known as the LAN connection right here, which is what connects to my local area network. Now, lots of people want to plug into these routers, so we actually have a built-in switch here in the middle. Oh, also keep in mind that these routers, this is where things like firewalls are actually working. Your DHCP server's working from here. If you're running NAT, and you probably are at home, it's all running from this actual box itself. Now, if we look in the center, now we're going to have a switch. And the reason we have a switch is because we like to plug hardwired into our devices when possible. And if you look at the middle here, you'll see there's 1, 2, 3, 4 switches right here, but Mike is showing 6, right? Well, that's because invariably you're going to have a hardwired connection. So this actual guy doesn't really exist. Do you understand what I'm saying? He's a hardwired connection, and you just plug into any one of these, for example, if you want to access the router. Then there's also usually a hardwired connection to a wireless access point. It's really important to me that you understand when we say the word router that it's usually a router and a switch and a wireless access point. So anything that's connected to the LAN side of that particular router, well, there'll be a DHCP server that you can list of broadcasts. We're going to set everything inside the LAN to a very specific network ID. In my diagram, which you're about to see, I'm going to set it to 192.168.55 dot whatever. And if we understand that, we can simplify this picture a lot, and it helps us talk about networking more. So what I'm going to do here is I want to just get rid of all this goo, and instead I'm just going to draw a big rounded rectangle like this. Or you could draw a circle. I mean, it doesn't matter, okay? But you'll notice how it cuts through the router itself. That's because, remember, on the LAN side of the router, there is one connection. There could be more, but usually there's just one. And we have to first identify the network. So here we're going to set it up as 192.168.55. Well, Mike, how do we set up a local area network to be 192.168.55 whatever? Usually on these home routers, you just go in and you assign the IP address to the LAN connection. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the router, and probably by default it's going to be 192.168.1.1. So I'll open up a browser, brand new router, plug into it, open up a browser, make sure I have an IP address that looks like 192.168.1.100 or something like that. And then I'm just going to go into the browser, type in 192.168.1.1, enter, boink, ta-da! You are now actually in the web interface for that particular router. And one of the first things I'm going to do is I'm going to change the LAN IP address to something non-standard. For this example, it'd be 192.168.55.1. Keep in mind that most of the time, your one connection in your LAN that goes out to the internet, the LAN side, we usually call that .1. There's no law of physics to that. It's just good best practices. If I am somebody working on your network and I'm going to try to find the default gateway, which is your router's LAN connection, and it's not .1, I'm going to be a little frustrated. Won't break anything. You can do any number you want, but it's just a good convention. Okay. So I've given it a name like this. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start identifying different connections. Like for example, I don't have to draw a little circle here or anything. I know there's only one connection here. So I'm going to call it 192.168.55.1 just because I like that. In fact, if you really want to, we know everything in here is going to be 192.168.55. something. So we could just do a .1 like that. You get the idea? Folks, you're drawing up your first network diagram. Now, I can draw inside of this individual devices. Like say I've got a WAP, I can go ahead and write its IP address out if I want to. I could just write the word WAP if I really wanted to, or I could put in a .10 like that. This is completely up to you. Now, the other thing I want you to notice, what I just did here, did you notice another circle appeared? That is the other broadcast domain. So this is the broadcast domain that's probably coming in from my ISP, and I'm making these numbers up. So it's going to be a public address. So 12.7.128 WAC24. And in this case, it's like a 142. Your WAN address, in most cases, certainly in a SOHO network, comes from your ISP itself. Your WAN connection is, believe it or not, in most cases, a DHCP client. It's a client. So the moment you connect your F-type connector into your router, it goes out and says, I need a DHCP. It works the exact same way that DHCP works for us on a LAN, except it only goes, it's acting as a client. Isn't that fascinating? Oh, by the way, the easiest way for me to verify the right IP address for the WAN side is usually have to log into the router itself, log into the router, do your, and there's usually some status or something like that that tells you all that pertinent information all in one nice little pile. So one of the things that's really important for us is that when you're setting up a new network, especially if it's one that you're going to be using on a daily basis, your internal network ID, in this case being 192.168.55, you should have that memorized. You should be able to just rattle that off instantly. Certainly on the WAN side, because the IP addresses for the WAN side change so rarely, I tend to memorize those as well. Now, if you want to make sure it never changes, you can buy a static address. That's expensive, but you could do that if you wanted. But you could also do things like dynamic DNS, where you actually get a DNS name for, camera1.mikesdomain.net or something like that, and we can use that as a tool, including with port forwarding and such, to access a camera from anywhere in the world, that kind of a thing. Yeah, okay, we'll do it on Monday. We need all this so that we can talk about Monday, okay? All right. Plus, I want to make sure we have time for a contest today, because I want to make sure, because we're giving away books. We're going to give away 2 books today. Okay. Oh, the Borough of Manhattan Community College guys are back. Hello. All right. Obina Norki's also here. Hello. Okay. So that is the big thing I wanted to make sure you guys understood, at least in terms of how network diagrams work. Because if you're going to be sticking with me through these talks, and we're going to be talking about this more, going forward, I'm not drawing pictures of switches and routers. I'm just going to be drawing circles. it is very important to me that if this is not clear, that you ask me some questions. Everybody seems quite happy. Therefore, I too am quite happy. I'm going to turn off my PowerPoint and take a look at some of the questions. Well, we got more to do today, kids. I just wanted to get that one important point taken care of. Netherlands are back. Tando Finke back from South Africa, drinking that Pinotage. What is the best way to play with these protocols? Set up virtual machines as servers? Yeah, that'd be probably the easier way to do it. Create an internal virtual PC, spin up a couple of Windows systems. You get the Windows ISOs from Microsoft. They're good for 30 or 90 days. You just use them for demo. So that's pretty straightforward right there. Allison Ledoux from Brooklyn. Hey, Allison, I used to live in Elmhurst, Queens. You know where that is? All right. And Kazar Hasib from Ontario. I had a lot of fun in Toronto. Hey, Mike, are you hiring at this time? No. Sorry. Well, maybe Scott Jernigan's hiring. D, a quick explanation of the man-in-box analogy. Sure. When I'm teaching CPUs right at the beginning, I use this analogy of a man-in-box because to me it serves a really, really important purpose. For most people, the idea of breaking open a CPU to see what's in there seems like really deep, and the concept of understanding machine language and everything like that is just way outside of most people's scope. So I came up with the man-in-box analogy over 20 years ago, and it seems to be standing up the test of time. The idea behind the man in the box acts as the hard codeware of the CPU itself. So I don't want to get into machine language too much. I actually do in the book in a small way. But the bottom line is that the man in the box allows us to look at it from the outside and then go inside. Because there's a lot of stuff on the A+ in particular that talks about pipelining, talks about caching, hyper-threading and stuff like that. And without having that deeper understanding of what's going on with which eventually turns into men in box, if you've been reading that chapter, gives people a good analogy to understand how all these different functions work. So I hope that answers your question. D, feel free to ask more questions, okay? I got a fly up my nose or something. Yeah, I always get nervous when someone says a quick explanation because sometimes it's not so quick. But we can definitely do that. Linus Retirement. Hey, Mike, how's your grandson? I got 2 grandsons. So Stephen and William, man, they're doing great. Jenna Griffin. Hi. Uzbekistani Denzel. By the way, if you are an alumni of certain schools, Microsoft may provide you with Educate. Yeah, that's true. They certainly do that too. Shook 5112, 512. Mike, would you consider over-the-phone tech support IT experience for resume? Were you getting paid to do it? And the answer is yes. If you weren't getting paid to do it, but was with an organization like a charity or something, yeah, absolutely, you would put that on there. Especially if you're going for another phone tech support job. How's that for an answer? Okay. Wartrocity, keeping IT entertaining and moving. I'm trying, man. Oh, you guys, I totally snuck into Professor Messer's thing today. He does a little monthly thing, not too dissimilar from what I'm doing. And he didn't even say hi to me. I don't think he knew I was there, but I did sneak in. He has a very, very large microphone. Architectural controls, LHOA. Wireless ad hoc mode, is it the same as a hotspot? No. Ad hoc simply means that you don't have a wireless access point. When you're in ad hoc mode, let's say you have a wireless access point, you put it into ad hoc mode, what you're doing is you're telling it to stop being a wireless access point and to act like just another client. So to start a ad hoc network, you don't have a WAP. you just have one of the computers will actually initiate that ad hoc mode. And God, I have not done that in Windows in so long that I'm not even sure how to do that anymore. And I don't want to mess with my wireless right now because it might knock me off. So you absolutely can do it in any operating system, but you start with one individual system, and you bring it up, and it will start advertising an SSID, and the other systems can just connect to that, and you get ad hoc mode. Ad hoc has some very interesting features. It makes it's a mesh network for one thing. It doesn't require a wireless access point, so that's a good thing as long as you don't want to get on the internet, or you end up you can share an internet connection in Windows, which would be a really strong motivation to get a wireless access point, in my opinion. But yeah, ad hoc mode, I've done it on jet airplanes, stuff like that. Yeah. So a hotspot simply means that you are going to take your wireless network, and instead of just acting as a regular client and connecting to it, you're going to offer you're going to make your system act like an infrastructure network. So I told you earlier, you could take a WAP and turn it into a client. Well, with the right software, you can take a client and turn it into a WAP. So basically, you're sharing your internet connection with a public Wi-Fi is what a hotspot is. So that could manifest as a little box you can get. You can plug wired into a computer and use your wireless as a SSID, like a WAP. So all of those ways are hotspots. Also, the term hotspot is hotspot. A lot of times you hear the word hotspot when you're just talking about public Wi-Fi. You go into a coffee shop and they have a public internet connection, wireless. And that's generically called a hotspot as well. Can you explain RJ45 port light indication green and orange? Vimal, it really depends on the network card, but usually you're going to have 3 functions on any NIC. Number 1, you're going to have a connectivity. Are you plugged into a switch someplace, which is going to have a light that'll turn on. Second, you're going to have an activity light that's going to be flickering very, not an even, steady flicker. It's going to be all over the place. And that just shows activity. And then you're going to have a speed indicator, which usually goes by different colors. For most network cards, green is the fastest they can go. So if you've got a 10 gigabit card and it's green, that generally means you're at your highest speed. If you've got a 10 megabyte card and it's a green, that usually shows you're at 10 megabytes. So green doesn't mean a particular speed, orange doesn't mean a particular speed, yellow doesn't mean it doesn't work that way. But so they're all relative. The other thing to keep in mind with the link lights on a NIC is that they're often combined. So you could have like the connection light that shows you're connected to the switch, and then that will start to flicker. So one LED does 2 functions, that kind of a thing. So it's all very different, and every network card is different on that. Allison Ledoux, Messer's videos are informative, but yeah, he's a little dull, but man, he knows his stuff. I will not argue. He's probably smarter than me. I've been using Messer and yourself, and I got to tell you guys, that's not necessarily a bad idea, is to have 2 different educational sources, especially right now where things are cheap to free. Everybody, they always talk about how like writers have a style to their writing, like Hemingway or Faulkner. Well, we run into the same situation in IT training. So my books, even my practice questions have a voice to them that I try to avoid. But a lot of people, especially if you concentrate like on one stack of practice questions, you're going to get used to my voice in it. And while people like me try really, really hard to emulate the look and feel of actual CompTIA questions, I'm always going to have my slant in it. So to have somebody else's stuff, it's not necessarily a bad idea. Professor Messer is very much a worthy competitor. Good guy. What's the best entry labs to apply to after getting the A+? Well, Webb, the right answer is, what's the best entry-level job for you to be applying for now? There's a lot of good jobs out there, sales jobs, basic support jobs, first-level technical support jobs, all of which usually do not require A+ certification. They like it as you get the job and then you get A+ certified. That shows big things to the HR people, to your manager, that you're blowing and growing. But please don't do that. Go get a job now. I don't know where you are, but here in the States, of course, Best Buy is always hiring salespeople. It's not the greatest money in the world. You'll make more than driving Uber. And so you get a job as a salesperson on the floor at Best Buy, and then you get your A+, and then now all of a sudden you're Geek Squad and making more money. And so you see how this works. Certifications will not give you a job. All they do is they put your name at the top of the stack of resumes. So you're making a mistake if you think, oh, I have to first get this, then get a job. Little mom and pop shops, the computer shops, are always looking for people. Auto stores where they're putting in the speakers and stuff like that. A lot of that stuff is IP based now. The other one, especially if you're a younger person, you should really take a hard look at talking to internships at the federal level. And just because, this is US guys, just because they're at the federal level, that doesn't mean you have to go to Washington, D.C. Just type in, go into Google and type in FBI internships, and then DEA internships, and Department of Justice internships. You would be shocked at how many internships are offered. And most of the time they're given to, in my opinion, less than perfectly qualified people, simply because people don't ask. They don't ask, So go look. Oh, and yes, they're paid internships. Check stuff like that out. But go get a job. So, okay. So to me, the only difference between for me, I'm going to see if any of the guys yell at me here. For me, the difference between a hotspot and a tether is tethering is the mechanism by which you create the hotspot. So in tethering, you're taking your cellular phone, and you're using the cellular connection, and then usually plug in a USB. So to me, a tethering brings it in, whereas a hotspot is, in my definition, a public forward-facing SSID that anybody can connect to. Get the idea? So tethering is a mechanism. Hotspot is, I don't even like that word. Hey, Scott or Dave, somebody fix me on the word hotspot. I've never liked that word. Andrew Hutz, Mike, I'm not planning to do the certs yet, but I was doing an AWS prep course. Good way to learn about virtualization and find something that isn't proprietary. I think AWS is a terrible way to learn about virtualization. AWS certs are to learn about AWS. If you want to play with virtualization, I swear, and if you're just looking to gain in technology, get thee to a copy of Virtual PC. That was a Freudian slip. Of Oracle's VirtualBox, which is a free Type 2 hypervisor, and play with it. Download some ISOs. Just play. It's a wonderful tool, and I learn a lot from just playing with stuff, and you should too. Linus retirement tips. Yeah, sorry about that, man. I always hate, people think that failing a certification exam is like failing the SATs. I mean, it's not. It's a pain in the rear end, I'll give you that. It is expensive, I'll give you that, but it's not the end of the world. I generally fail about 1/3 of all my tests I take. I don't study enough. I'm Mike Meyers, I know all this stuff. I have time, which is a great benefit that I have in considering what I do for a living. So if I miss something, I just take a day off and try again. But it's not that big of a deal. And I know this isn't what you're saying, but I just want to add to that a little bit, and that is, nobody cares what you get on a certification exam. Certainly CompTIA. No one's going to ask you what your score is. In fact, if you boast about your score because you get a high score, that kind of makes you a little bit of a obnoxious person. It's something you usually want to avoid. So it's D for diploma, and so anyway, sorry you didn't pass the 1002. Messer's got great stuff, but combining mine stuff with his is going to be your secret. You're going to be doing great. The FBI has some of the most powerful workstations I've ever seen at the regional computer forensics laboratories. Total Seminars used to teach at these locations for more than 10 years. After some of the funding issues that went around, the FBI now teaches only at Quantico, which is cool. They have a full automatic gun range. Yeah, nothing better than using your tax dollars for us to shoot guns. Great stuff. They have these internships. They're all over. Almost any FBI field office or any FBI regional computer forensics laboratory has internships that are offered at certain times during the year. You're going to have to contact the HR people at the individual places. This isn't done from one central location. And a lot of times it's a matter of sweet talking your way, get in there. The FBI has wonderful, in fact, for you teachers, this is something you guys should consider. Every FBI agent in the country, and I'm sure there's probably the entire Department of Justice, is required to do some amount of community outreach. So these agents are always looking for a school to talk to or something like that. And again, talking to your local, you have to be in a bigger town, but you'd be surprised that the FBI has some really small offices. DEA has like residential offices. And these guys are looking to do volunteer work because they have to as part of their job. And they're good folks. Call them up and ask, so what do you have for public outreach? I'm an instructor. What do you have for public outreach? And you'd be surprised how much they can do. And eager folks who want to help out. And plus, now that if you're getting in on one of these, now you know a couple of agents. Hey, can I have a card? That's how these games are played, kids. Joseph Durant, how many retries do I have if one were to fail the CompTIA exam? As many as your wallet can handle, brother. There is no, I am extremely confident that there is no limit to the number of attempts you can make. But please don't do that. I'm not aware of anybody who's had, using my materials, who's taken the test 3 times and not passed. So that's kind of my record. I think there was a 4 in there once. But if you take the test twice, for example, and you're failing, and especially if you're using my material, here, contact me. Good Lord. If assuming that one is an intellectual person and a good studier, that shouldn't happen. Certainly not with my stuff. And if it is happening, and this goes for anybody, where you're having passing troubles, you need to contact me directly and say help. And I will help. Glad to help, because you should be able to pass. Something else is going wrong. Brandon Bowman is calling Quantico technically a Marine Corps installation. I think the FBI would say the Marines are on an FBI installation. Although it is funny when you're driving up to the FBI side and these Marines, it's a boot camp there, and a lot of young guys working and gals working very, very hard. Uzbekistani Denzel, should I be punched in the face because I use the term 8P, 8C over RJ45? Yes, you should. Now, I mean, you are absolutely correct. The joke we make at Total Seminars is that you are technically correct, but you have no friends. I will tell you that we have seen questions where that phrasing, they're not quizzing you on what does 8P, 8C mean. They're just using the term. And so we talk about it, and it's good that you know them. But RJ45 seems to be the more common vernacular, as it were. Brandon, you were a jarhead, huh? Good for you, brother. Oh yes, Audrey is absolutely right. There is a time limit. But even that, you got to keep in mind that there's a lot of things you can do where they'll help you. If you need extra time, there's all kinds of stuff. We talked about this week before last. I guess we could bring it up again. I don't have it in front of me right now. But CompTIA will bend over backwards to help you, to accommodate you on just about anything you need. Extra time, readers, writers. You get people write for you to enter in stuff, whatever you want. Brandon took a CIW 3 times. Yes, Audrey is right. You have to wait a certain number of days. Okay, so what I do want to do today is I want to take a look at some of the tools that I use. Especially if you were around yesterday, you now have a better understanding of what ports can do for us. And so remember, the IP address gets the data to the right computer. The port number gets it to the right application. So we need, in order to have 2 computers talking to each other, we have to have each one's IP address and each one's port number to create a particular session that goes between 2 devices. Now, knowing that, when you look at your system, you know that there's a whole bunch of conversation going on between you and whoever you're doing. And I'm not just talking about your Googling or whatever it might be. Certainly the web browsers are a big chunk of that, but a lot of stuff's going on. So what I want to do is talk about some of the tools that we can use to kind of take a look at what's going on in our systems so that we can get an idea. Oh my God, it's 2:42 already? I'm going to do this quick because we have prizes, okay? All right, so the first thing I want to turn to is probably the most well-known of all, and that is good old netstat. So let's take a look at netstat. All right, so I think I've got this set up so it's going to be easy to read. And you can tell because I'm in C:\Windows/System32, you know I've logged in with administrator privileges. So if so I'm just going to type netstat by itself. Now, we can't, it's going to take a little while to run everything. But as it's doing this, let's take a look at the, it's going to scroll a little bit. So what we're going to do is I'm going to rerun netstat like right now, but I'm going to run it again and I'm going to type in netstat -n. N is in Nancy because that's going to allow everything to show up in numbers. I'm giving it a second and it looks like it's loaded up. Let's head back over there. All right. Let's get back up to the top. All right, so if you take a look at this, you're going to see each one of these is a session that's been established, okay? So here is one, if you take a look, it's on a loopback address on port 9010, on loopback address, and then 61542. Those are where you're looping back to yourself on both sides of the session or to yourself. A lot of times, these are connections that are handling something that your system may or may not need in the future. So this could be stuff like streamer drivers. This could be stuff like anything that shows up in your system tray that may need to phone home from time to time. They'll usually manifest like this. These also show up as, believe it or not, telemetry from good old Microsoft. So when you're using Cortana or something like that, one of those links is going to be for your Cortana. If you're using location services, one of those or a couple of those are going to be for location services. So when you run netstat on a Windows system, you tend to see a lot of this stuff. And it's not that it's bad, it's just not terribly interesting. So what I want to do now is we're going to scroll a little bit deeper and let's just take a look at stuff that might be a little bit more interesting. Okay, so for example, right here, here's my system. This is the IP address for the system I'm on. And that is a I just went blank. That's the temporary address, the ephemeral address. And this is who he's talking to. Now, you can tell this is my local address, which is an ephemeral address, and here's 443. So just by looking at that, you instantly know that this is a HTTPS connection. I've got about 6 web tabs open right now, so I should have a lot of these. Now, let's go back in here. I want you to look at something very, very carefully. So if you'll see here, I'm connected to 54.187.42.232, right? So you'll start to see that you'll get similar, if not the same numbers appearing from time to time. So what is going on there? Well, what's going on is that you may only have one web page open, but that web page has connections to Java. That web page has ads being popped up all over the place. So even if you're only connecting to one web page, you probably have a whole bunch of sessions going as ads get updated and all kinds of stuff like that. So it's normal and good to see that. All right, so this is a bunch of web stuff. I don't have a whole lot more going on it than web stuff. So what you're looking at over here is you'll see things that it says established. That is a connection that's going right now. Time wait means everything went okay, but we're kind of done. So I'm just waiting for a timeout. And this is a close wait. In this particular case, somebody has already talked to him and said, okay, we're done. See you later, alligator. And he's just waiting for a proper closeout. The downside to netstat, more than anything else, is that it's only good for what's happening right now. Get the idea? So wouldn't it be cool if netstat could just update itself on the fly for things? And that's where tools like Mark Rusinovich's TCPView are absolutely golden. Let me show you TCPView. All right, so this is TCPView. I show you it there, but I don't see where it is down here. There it is. Okay. So TCPView, do you see things that are going green and red? Green means things are being established, and then red means things are closing out. So this changes on the fly. Now, what's kind of interesting here is that, first of all, it shows us what process is calling up these particular sessions. A lot of times you'll go into netstat, and I can show you with netstat, there's a command that says bring up the processes. It works great, but if something weird is like phoning out of your system, that's often, not always, most of the time it's not, but it is often malware. And tools like netstat and TCPView can often point to things that are phoning home that we may not want to have them phoning home on our computer. Get the idea? So what I want to do, we're going to come back to TCPView, but I want to have a little bit more fun in netstat. I want to make sure, because folks, you're actually going to be quizzed on this stuff. So let me clear the screen. We've been doing too much Linux lately. Okay, so netstat. If you're in netstat with the /?, of course, that'll show you all the interesting stuff. But in particular, there are two switches. We've already seen /n, which just turns things into the numerical form. But the other two biggies are, you ready? A, if you do a -A, that shows all connections and listening ports. Wait a minute, Mike. Why would my little laptop have any listening ports? If you were around yesterday, we know that a listening port means that you're a server probably. Well, there's all kinds of server stuff that goes on, and it's nice to be able to look at our listening ports and know what's going on. And we're going to see that in just a second. But the other one is, let's go back, is B. The -B command will actually show you the executable involved with it. And so that can be really helpful. In fact, I've got another browser open right now in PowerShell. So if you take a look over here in PowerShell, you can see I've run the netstat command right here. And it just takes so long to run it, guys. That's why I did it in a separate window. and I've tried to zoom in a little bit, but you can actually see which executables are being run for any one of these particular sessions. Knowing the executable on a session that you don't trust can be extremely handy, because you can go in and kill the process if you want to. You don't have to delete it, but you can just turn it off, or at least try to turn it off. And a lot of times that might give you a clue where the naughtiness is. Also, you can do a search on the executable, and if it's in a folder that doesn't look safe, maybe it's something to look at. Maybe you can look at the other files in that folder, and you can do a lot of your own research going, what the heck is this? Also keep in mind that whenever we're looking for stuff like that, remember what we're looking for. We're looking for listening ports. So let's do this. So I'm going to do this in netstat. Now watch this. So I'm going to type netstat -a. That's going to get everybody. And then I do a -n. I think you could do just a. Oop, you can't. Got to put a space in between them. There we go. All right, so these are IPv6 connections down here. But what's interesting is here at the top, scrolling, 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 more scrolling. I'm going a little slow on purpose. Okay, you see all these right here, folks? This is the most important part of using the netstat -a. These are listening ports. Oh, doggone it. Scott Jernigan, you're supposed to yell at me when I forget to switch over. Here we go. Yeah, you got to miss me scrolling a little bit. Anyway, so if you take a look here at the top, we've run netstat -a -n. And if you look, all these listening ports are really, really important, because there's, in essence, server ports are they're waiting for something to happen. Most of these ports in the 40,000 range, that's just telemetry, and it's okay. Like 135, for example, we know that that is an old NetBIOS NetBUI, so if you're wanting to share a printer or something, you can do that. 445 is SMBs. Those better be there on a Windows system, or you're not going to be able to share printers or folders or anything. But look here, I'm listening on port 22 and port 23. Quiz time. If I'm listening on port 23, what do you probably know about my system? In fact, yeah, sorry, John, I was on the wrong thing there for a minute. I fixed it. In fact, this is going to be our first competition question. Are you ready? The first person to answer wins. If you run netstat and you see that you're listening on port 23, what do you think is happening on your system? First person to answer wins. Okay, we've got a winner. What's happening here, and I'm going to have to give it to Andrew, because it means it's a server. That means I'm running server software on this computer. Oops. Well, I did that on purpose because I wanted to show you that you can find stuff like this. That, you know, in this case, I have a SSH and a Telnet. Remember 22 and 23? Andrew Hutz, you're the winner. Andrew, weren't you already? I'm going to let you choose. You get another book, Andrew. So the trick is that means I'm running a Telnet server, and I am. I turned it on purpose because I wanted to show you guys, and I'm using a wonderful old program called FreeSSH Daemon. It's great for Windows if you just want to teach people about Telnet and SSH. It's part of my cool tool set, and this is exactly where you get the big payoff with netstat, is that -a -n. It does a great job and tells us exactly where the issue is. So, Andrew Hutz, congratulations to you, buddy. You got it, man. I'm sorry, it was Becca Stanley. You said it's a Telnet connection, but I was looking for the word server, and I got to give it to Mr. Hutz because he said the word server first. All right, we got another giveaway, and we got 5 minutes to do it. So let's go ahead and go back. So all of these listening ports. Now, here's a bunch of listening ports that I don't know what these are. So these can be a bit of a challenge sometimes. When you get a listening port and you don't know what it is, it's time to do some research, folks. I used to know what all those were, but I forgot. I know they're all safe. But you go in and you type in port 5040. Just type in port 5040 in a web browser. There's like 5 or 6 really great websites that will say, oh no, this is part of the Microsoft Wajaboodle thing, or your Logitech G Series hub camera controller thing. And they're fine. But you got to do this process. The first time you run netstat on a system you're actually worried about, you're going to do a lot of this. Because you got to. Because you don't know who's phoning home from your system at any given moment. So let's go back to TCPView real quick, and then I'm going to have one more competition. So what I want to do here is, first of all, one of the things I love about TCPView is I can actually, where'd it go? I can actually sort by ports. So here's, you see that 22 and 23? That's the same thing we were seeing before. Here's my 135, 137, 138, 139, all of these should be there. Notice it puts together the IPv6 with the IPv4. Very, very convenient. So that is extremely handy. Now the other thing, the problem is I got so much running on this system right now. Let's make sure. There's my Firefox. This OBS 64 is the streaming software I'm actually using right now to talk to you guys. More Firefox. I got a lot of Firefox running. All right, so I'm going to try to pull this off. You guys watch this screen, because that's all you can see, while I'm going to open up let's get something. All right, so you can't see what I've logged into. But what I hope you could, oh, it just scrolls too fast. Oh, there it is. Okay, so what's happened here is I've logged into a particularly complicated website, and all those green connections you see are where it actually makes that initial connection to that particular site. And did you see all that stuff open up? This was a Microsoft site that's particularly obnoxious in terms of the number of sessions it opens up. This is actually something fun for you to be able to do on your own, because just go get a copy of TCPView, and what you do is put it on one side of your screen and then just open up web pages with putting your web browser on the other side, and you can watch them back and forth. And it's really cool, especially when you hit certain websites and it opens up 40 sessions and you're like, wow, is that good? So actually pretty interesting. All right, guys, we got time for one more competition. We're going to give away another book. Make it ladies' choice, whatever book you want. In fact, Mr. Hutz, I'll give you the same deal. You guys tell me what, you got to tell me what book you want right now, though. No, wait, the winners have to tell me. Okay. I told you that there was a switch. Guys, ready? Here, let me get my thing up so I can see who the winner is. You ready? Here we go. Here we go. What switch do we use in netstat to show all of the executables in the list? I showed you this in PowerPoint. I'll give you a clue. It's not A. So quick, I need someone to type it in. Which switch do we use in netstat to be able to get, hey, Brandon Bowman is the winner. Sorry, man, Uzbekistani, you're just like right behind this stuff. All right, yeah, sorry guys, no, Brandon got it. Brandon, you got it, you're the first one. As long as I saw B, I was happy. You guys, all right. I forget how much of a lag we have on this kind of stuff. It's no big deal. All right, well, cool. All right, so first of all, winners, you need to send an email to Kathy Yale at totalsim.com, and let's go ahead and we'll get those books out to you. If we can get them to you we'll probably just have them drop ship through Amazon to you. It's just kind of hard to get any shipping done these days. Well, yeah, Brandon, you said B, but Uzbekistan, sorry, buddy. These competitions are completely unfair and cruel, and just keep coming back because we give away tons of stuff every week, and you can try it again next time we come back. And with that, it is 3 o'clock. All right, for Monday, we are definitely going to be hitting more on the ports, and we're going to be Monday's going to be port triggering, port forwarding, and DMZs. That's going to be Monday, plus whatever else people want to talk about. Thank you so much. Special thanks to Audrey O'Shea for showing up. What a great gal. Have an amazing program, an amazing writer. You guys should make a point to try to contact her. Sorry, Uzbekistani. I promise you next week you'll be a winner. And until then, guys, have a super duper weekend. Stay safe out there. I'm going to be going to my restaurant for the first time in a month and a half. I'm getting pretty excited about that. But until then, this is your Uncle Mikey saying good night. Good night.